But in India, President Obama reaching out to another world leader and ally, that is Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. They spoke by phone following the killing of a Japanese hostage by ISIS in Syria. The president expressed condolences to the people of Japan, and he also issued a statement. He said this. He said, "We will work together to bring the perpetrators of these murders to justice, and will continue to take decisive action to degrade and ultimately defeat ISIL." Another big story that we're following this morning, ISIS now issuing a new ultimatum to spare the life of the surviving Japanese hostage. We're talking about Kenji Goto. The militants, they are now demanding the release of a convicted terrorist, and she's been in prison in Jordan since 2005 after she tried to blow up a wedding party at a hotel in Amman. I want to bring in our CNN's Will Ripley in Tokyo to tell us more about the new demand by ISIS and whether or not we think that the Japanese are going to respond to this, how they might respond, and who this figure is. Will?
Well, Suzanne, as you know, demanding the release of Sajid al-Rishawi is almost as unrealistic, if not more so, than demanding $200 million from the Japanese government, which was their first demand in the previous video. The reason for that is that she is a high-profile terrorist who's been held in prison in Jordan, as you said, for nearly a decade, a country which has just now reinstated the death penalty after many years, because she was actually sentenced to death. So to ask, first of all, Japan would have to ask Jordan to release one of their highest level prisoners who potentially could be facing execution in exchange for a single journalist from Japan who chose to enter Syria to save his friend, but nonetheless he made the choice, and it's a single hostage. Normally, if you're talking about a prisoner exchange, you would release, if it was one high level terrorist, there'd be a group of hostages released, and that's not what ISIS is offering in this case. So as you imagine, Suzanne, very grave fears here for the safety of Kenji Goto, the one remaining hostage who is still alive.
And Will, what do we know about, I mean, clearly this is a tragedy for the family of that Japanese hostage who was killed, as well as the country and the world watching what happens to this next person. Has there been any response, from the family of that hostage who lost his life?
Haruna Yukawa's father is now speaking out, and to give you an indication of Japanese culture, there is a lot of shame when somebody is taken hostage in another country. It's why you heard Kenji Goto's mother apologizing for the inconvenience that her son caused just hours before that deadline when he was threatened to be executed. And now we're hearing from Yukawa's father, who didn't even want to show his face on camera, but you can hear the emotion.
I have been praying such a thing would not happen. But unfortunately, it has finally come to pass, and my heart aches. I feel so guilty that Mr. Goto has been detained and threatened death after he had entered there to rescue my son at the risk of his life. I really wish him to be released and return to Japan immediately and continue his activity.
Suzanne, Kenji Goto has a wife and 2 young daughters, including a newborn, who are here in Japan right now, very uncertain about the fate of their father. It's just tragic.
It is so sad. And Will, they were given 72 hours, a deadline for that ransom. Is there any deadline for producing this?